morning, and welcome to the Mental Breakdown Morning Show. I'm Dr. Bernie Wilkinson.
I'm Dr. Richard Marshall.
Happy Tuesday, Richard.
Tuesday.
Jeez. Tuesday is the day of the week.
And what a week it's going to be.
It already has been. It's last night was the debates. Yesterday was a great Monday. I mean, what better
start? It was the start
day
of another week.
Tuesday,
right?
Yeah.
People complain about Mondays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
yesterday was a pretty good day. I stayed busy most of the day. You were busy. I didn't see you much.
I was busy. Yep.
So
my daughter was here visiting for the day, so I went out and had lunch with her. That's why I disappeared.
Is that why I didn't see you? I thought you were working.
I came back. Mm-hmm.
I thought you were working.
No, I came back, but I had to spend a little time with my daughter, and then because she's home from college. She's in her last year. She's going to graduate this year.
My goodness.
So time flies.
Wow.
And so I went out and had lunch with her, and then she went back to the university. So
that's nice.
I did disappear for 2 hour and a half.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, but anyway, the week got off to a good start.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Back on schedule, back on my food plan.
And then yesterday ended with the debates, which we're not really going to talk about. We decided this morning that we're not going to talk about that because they only mentioned mental health issues for a fleeting moment as it relates to gun violence, which I think is a great point. And
yeah, we agreed yesterday. We actually agreed last week and over the weekend and again yesterday that we would not discuss the debates except as they related to mental health.
Right.
And the only mention was kind of this reference to mental health was in terms of shooters.
Right. And mental health as it relates to policies and things like that, not as it relates to the candidates.
Right. See, we promised we wouldn't do that.
My fault.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to talk about something else instead, because there was you found a really interesting article this morning that fits with a post that I put on Facebook over the weekend, and you found an article from WebMD related to 7 signs that you're a helicopter parent.
Right. This issue keeps coming up, over and over again, and I was surprised to see it in the news again.
Yeah.
So it is something that is of concern to people. This was on WebMD, and it would be something that physicians would be interested, particularly pediatricians, would be interested in reading, because it's an issue that they have to discuss with their patients regarding parental control and parental influence, and how much is too much.
Right.
Parenting.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So there are these 7 signs, and how this relates to something I posted on Facebook over the weekend is I posted this little video of a playground.
Oh,
in
yeah,
New York.
I did see that.
You saw that?
Yeah, there's one in
He doesn't
Berkeley.
always check his Facebook, even though I've
No,
tagged him
that's
on
the
things.
dangerous playground.
Right.
They have one of those in Berkeley.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one was in Berkeley.
Yeah.
And so they put one in New York.
There's one in New York.
And so, that's right. I knew you posted that.
I'm not going to respond because, All right.
Well,
so,
tell them what the playground is about.
So the playground is, as you said, is sort of a dangerous playground, and it's funny because in the video it shows a fence around it, and like the parents are outside the fence, and the kids are inside playing with hammers and saws, and they're building
old
things,
furniture.
and yeah, it looks like a scene from a movie or something.
Right.
But these kids are in there learning about things that it emphasizes that they'll come home with dirty knees, and sometimes they'll be injured but it's a great way for kids to learn problem solving. It's a great way for them to sort of explore how things work and how to make things happen.
Right.
And I think it's wonderful, and I would love to have one of those around here.
It's an antidote to you can't possibly get hurt on this playground.
Right.
It's got soft ground up tires, so if you fall, you don't hurt yourself. Nothing bad can happen on certain playgrounds. And this playground, and when we were growing up, we learned safety. We learned not to fall. We learned what to do. And so
because we did all those things in the woods.
That's right. Where there was no, whatever was there was there.
That's right.
And so we did jump off bridges into rivers that who knew what was in, but. So these playgrounds were developed. I think the first one was developed in Berkeley, California, and it was designed to be safely dangerous.
Right.
In other words, there's not a tiger pit or electric fences or anything.
Not yet.
But there is a possibility that if you're not careful, you could get hurt. Not seriously hurt, but you could scrape a knee or cut a finger.
Yeah.
And so children...
You may need a tetanus shot or something afterwards, but it's all right.
You may need a trip to the emergency room. But no, seriously, it's a place where kids can learn to be safe,
right?
Rather than and they learn safety by avoiding potential problems. So
yeah.
So that's what we're. So then today, this article appears in WebMD about 7 signs that you might be a helicopter parent. Our concern with helicopter parents is when you're a new parent, we have something called attachment parenting.
Right.
But as children grow and mature, parents have to sort of start to withdraw from their lives. And we're caught, when we started to do standards-based education, and education became very competitive, and you feel this need that you have to get your children into this preschool and this elementary school, and this charter school, and this magnet school, they have to go to this college. When all of that started, I think it intensified this notion of the helicopter parent, where I have to do everything I can to position my children to be in this college, to be in this university. And yet what we advise parents to do is at some point with your children, you have to replace attachment parenting with detachment parenting, and kids have to learn how to fly on their own.
Right. Okay. Well, it's sort of the need, the parents' attempts to create a particular future for their child instead of allowing the child to find their own future.
I will control the environment so that my child ends up a certain way.
Right. And to some extent, this is a reflection of the parent's personality and how the parent feels about the world, because if the parent feels as though the world is unfair and that the other people have it out for their child and there's lots of anxiety and those kinds of things, that certainly increases the risk or the potential for becoming a helicopter parent.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I think that these 7 signs are great. I really like what they pointed out here. So the first one is, do you fight? You fight your child's battles, and I think that's.
We're always tempted to do that.
We are.
Every parent is tempted to fight. Your daughter or your son comes home and they've been wronged by a friend or an associate or somebody, and you want to pick up the phone and call the other parent or back off. Don't do it.
Right. Yeah. You have to allow your child to experience that. Sometimes they'll be successful and sometimes they won't.
They have to learn how to deal with it.
That,
instead of fighting the battle for them, you have to, first of all, you have to teach them how to calm down after they've been raked over the coals and damaged in some way, hurt in some way. And then the second thing is, how do you deal with that?
Right.
Okay. And these are life lessons that instead of fighting for them, you teach them how to fight their own battles. And this can begin this can begin in preschool. Right.
And similar to that is number 2, which is you do their schoolwork. And, we have talked to parents for years about this, where parents will come in and say, well, I got to be on the science project this year. And
that's right. Science fair project.
What? And sure enough, the parent did the science fair project for the child.
Right.
And of course, the question is, why? Why do that for them? Why not allow them to experience it? I had this discussion in my home last night. Connor was working on, my son Connor was working on a paper or a paragraph that he had to write, and he was not really wanting to do it. I mean, it was his school was out yesterday, and so he had a 3-day weekend, and then at the end of the 3-day weekend, he's having to do this work, and I'm trying to provide him some guidance so that he can then work on it. And so I provide him guidance. Then he went into his room, he wrote it up, and he brought it out, and he did a great job. Right. But there's that temptation that we have to just say, just write this. Just put this down on the paper. I'll dictate it to you, and you write it out, and then you'll be done.
Right.
But we have to really resist that urge, that tendency, because we have to let them experience that on their own.
And this whole notion of, well, if I don't do it, he won't get it done, and then he'll get a 0 the next day.
Right.
Let him get a 0.
Yeah.
In elementary, middle school, and high school, a 0 is inconsequential.
Right.
Okay? Let them learn the lesson. It's okay. Getting a 0 is a valuable teaching opportunity.
Right.
Okay? Because how do you prevent this from happening again?
Right.
Okay? And that's what you should be teaching your child.
Right.
Not avoiding how to avoid a 0. Rather, how do you deal with it? What do you do about it?
Right.
Okay?
Right. So number 3 is, you coach his or her coaches.
I love that one. You're a coach.
As a coach, that is.
I'm a parent, and you're a coach. There is a constant temptation for parents to get involved.
Right. So funny story from this weekend. I didn't tell you this before. So we had 2 matches this weekend, and our second match we were playing against a really strong, good team, and so we had a very particular formation, and we prefer them when we have this particular formation and this particular approach. We instruct the kids to play in a particular way, and you can hear the parents on the other side telling them to do things. And the kids are torn, telling their child.
The other team.
No. Our kids' parents telling our
coaching.
Players. And so now we're left having to give our instructions as loud as possible so that the parents can hear, no, this is what we want them to do. Right. And then the parent, then we get emails that, I really don't think that you should be talking to them so loudly. Well, I'm talking to them loudly because I need to make sure that you hear so that you don't tell them to do the opposite of what I'm telling them.
And that, dear listeners, is a coach responding to don't coach your kids' coaches.
Yes.
Right?
It's very challenging.
I
ended up sending an email.
A cousin of mine, and then this dad kept saying, my son should play shortstop, my son should play short, my son, and finally he said, okay, well, let your son play shortstop. Mm-hmm. He couldn't play the position. Right. And he embarrassed himself, and the dad said, okay, I got it. And he backed off. Okay?
Right.
My cousin, the coach, knew that he couldn't play that position, but Dad just insisted.
Yeah.
So leave the coaches alone, even when they're wrong.
Yeah.
And please don't let your children hear you criticizing a coach.
Right.
My father would never let me criticize a coach. I tried it one time.
Right.
Boy, he put the lid on that.
Well, and I think it's the same thing with teachers.
And teachers,
but you're absolutely right. It's very challenging because this is a non-familial authority figure who's trying to guide them and push them in ways that they're not accustomed to be pushing, and you have to allow that to happen. So,
if you don't trust, we've had this a number of times. I've had 3 children, and they've been active in sports and cheerleading and all kinds of things for the last 12 years. I mean, we've been dealing with coaches for 12 years. We haven't always agreed with them, but the last thing you want your children to hear is you criticizing the coach, because it gives them permission to criticize the coach, and then they're going to get into trouble. I'm not going to get into trouble. My children will get into trouble. So be very, very careful how you do this one. Don't do it in public. And if you don't trust the coach, maybe take your child off the team and do something else, rather than battle this.
Request not to have that coach next year, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So number 4, the 4th sign is you keep your child on a short leash.
Yes.
And we have, I guess we won't spend too much time on this because we have spent so much time on it in previous podcasts. Mm-hmm. You have to let them go. If you're in the grocery store, when they're little, even when they're 4, 5, 6 years old, let them go to the other end of the aisle. Let them go to the next aisle in the grocery store. Mm-hmm. I remember when my son was just 11 or 12 years old or so, and we would go to sport events at stadiums and things like that. And if he needed to use the restroom, I would just let him go. Now, I would monitor outside of his knowledge. I would watch him when he doesn't know that I'm watching him, just to make sure that he's safe and all that kind of stuff. But I gave him that freedom to be able to go, and I think that is so important, because that gives him confidence, that gives him a security that he is okay and that the world is safe.
And do it in safe places. Don't go to Disney World and let your kid disappear.
Right.
Okay? We're not advocating that. But if you go to a park that's safe, if you go to places that, like a baseball field, like when you play Little League, there's this little community, and those are generally pretty safe places. Yeah. Everybody knows everybody. That's a place to practice this longer leash theory. Yeah. Don't practice at Disney. Don't go to Busch Gardens. Don't go to strange places and do it. But if you know you're in a safe place, you can still supervise from a distance. They don't have to know you're watching, but allow them the freedom to function on their own.
Right. So number 5 is that you are a maid in your own house.
Oh yeah.
So you're
a house servant.
You are their house
elf.
You're taking care of their cleaning up their rooms. You're serving them food. You're doing everything for them, even when they're completely capable teenagers.
That's right.
You're doing everything for them.
Still doing it for them. Many parents say, "Well, I have to do it because I want it done right." Then do it when they're not in the house. Redo whatever they do when they don't see you, okay, if you really have to have it done right. but they have to contribute to the welfare of the house.
Right.
Okay. They have to learn that they are responsible for maintaining this house. That it's not just your job. That everybody has a role to play. An incredibly important lesson, because at some point they're going to be out on their own, and they're going to expect a spouse to do what you've been doing, because that's what they've learned.
And that doesn't happen.
That's not a good thing.
Just saying.
I love this next one.
Number 6, you play it too safe.
And we have to tell you, there's a picture on the website of a kid wrapped in bubble wrap with a football helmet. And what was the disease? Was it the Ebola craze that was going around a couple of years ago? There was some. Yeah. Well, we knew some kids who were traveling on a team, and I don't remember where they were going, whether they were going to South America or Mexico or something to compete. And this woman wrapped her son in plastic and duct tape and everything while he was in the airport. And I said, "You did?" She took a picture of him and sent it to us. And he had all this stuff on, and was wrapped in plastic and duct tape and everything to keep him safe during this. I think it was the Ebola scare.
Unbelievable. Oh, was it that or swine flu? Because swine flu, it was that Ebola.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. but it's you got to let them experience things. You got to let them be exposed to things. The parents, if when you have your toddlers and you're hesitant to put them in pre-K because you don't want them to get sick, put them in pre-K so they get sick. You want them to have those experiences. You want them to get those antibodies and be exposed to that stuff so that their body can build an immunity to it.
They have to eat a little dirt.
They do.
I know. We know a family, and they live on this. What is this? Hand sanitizer.
Right.
It's all over the house. Okay. I mean, it is everywhere, and they're constantly. These kids are constantly sick.
Yeah.
Their children are constantly
because they haven't built the resistance to it.
They need to eat some mold.
Yeah.
They have to eat some moldy food. They have to get sick. They have to build their antibodies.
Yeah.
Give your children a chance to develop these antibodies. Don't let them live in a bubble. They don't need to live in a bubble.
Right. Now, the last one, number 7, is you can't let them fail. And that's another one that we've talked about so many times.
I want to rephrase that, because it sounds like we're saying you better not let them fail. What we're saying is you're incapable.
Oh, right.
You're unable to let them fail. You won't allow them to fail.
Won't allow them to fail. Yeah. Yeah. And again, we've talked about that multiple times in previous podcasts, because failure is a part of life. I mean, you have to fail. We have to. Our kids need to know that failure is an option. Failure can happen. And if it does, how do you respond to it? What do you do about it? And kids who aren't allowed to fail never learn. It's just like with the antibodies that we were talking about just a second ago. If you don't ever experience it, you don't build a resistance to it. You don't know how to cope with it.
Right. And a child can learn how to deal with failure anywhere prior to college. Right. And here's why. Prior to college, you can always do something about a failing grade. Once you get to college, if you fail a class, it's on your permanent record and you can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let all those failures occur before you get to college.
Right.
Okay.
And ideally, you will even let it happen before they get to high school.
Right.
So they know and they understand what's going on. I mean, failing a class getting an F on a report card in elementary school means almost nothing. It means almost nothing
to the child. It might mean a lot to you as a parent,
right?
Okay, but
to the child's future,
it means nothing to a child's future.
Right.
Even middle school, it probably, unless they start taking high school classes,
right.
But if your child's not taking high school credit, those Carnegie unit classes like Algebra 1 and biology, it's not going to matter.
And even if it's just so difficult for you to allow an F to happen on a report card, allowing an F to happen on a test or on some assignment or something, the overall impact is going to be so minimal, yet it's going to be hugely influential to their overall perspective and understanding of things.
At some point in your child's elementary and middle school career, you almost have to encourage a failure or a disappointment, because that's a lesson that your child needs to learn before he or she gets to high school.
Right.
So please don't do everything to avoid that. Let them fail.
Right.
Let them fail at sports. Let them fail at school. Let them fail at something, and learn how to deal with that failure and disappointment. That's the important life lesson.
Absolutely. So, all right, if you meet criteria for any of those 7, just consider easing back a little bit. Put the helicopter on stall.
you don't need to hover.
You don't have to. No, you don't have to, because it's they have to experience things to be safe. And again, it goes back to that playground. Get hurt.
You need some supervised danger.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Remember, we want to get really close and bond and attach to our children when they're very young. But as they mature, we have to start to detach, and we have to let them go. By 16 or 17, these kids really should be able to function on their own. Children around the world do it.
Who wants them around when they're 16 or 17 years old?
We should talk about that someday. No, we wrote a book, How to Raise an Emotionally Healthy Child. Now we want to write a second book, How to Raise an Emotionally Healthy Adult. And one of the things that's going to be in there is they have to be independent by a certain age.
Yeah.
And so we have to put them in situations where they learn how to become independent.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Hopefully you got out and exercised last night. Hopefully you're still eating well. Did you? I didn't either. I announced on here that I was going to go for a run last night, and as I was leaving, it was thundering and lightning, and it just wasn't possible.
Never one to take responsibility. It's his fault that I'm not exercising, because he makes me come in here early in the morning to work and to do things. And so I used to exercise in the morning. So now I have to exercise late in the day, which is not my good time.
We call that an external locus of control, and there is some treatment for that. So
we'll discuss that tomorrow. What's tomorrow?
Tomorrow's Wednesday. Wacky Wednesday. No, not Wacky Wednesday. Wonderful Wednesday.
Wonderful Wednesday. Brown bag.
Wednesday is letter from the listeners.
Letter from listeners. So let us hear from you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got a good one. So
you did?
Yeah. So, all right. So until tomorrow, have a terrific day, and be happy and healthy, and eat well, exercise, and then
park the helicopter
and land the helicopter. All right. So until tomorrow,
we'll talk to you guys again.
We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.